often health concerns drive symptoms of male mental health. I just wondered whether you have ever worried about your physical health and whether that's affected your mental health at all.
I think inevitably yes. I mean, as the answer to that, I think in terms of health, I think everyone has moments in their lives where they sort of feel anxious about health. I mean, I think pandemic was a clear example of that. I think everyone's health anxiety kind of went through the roof. I'm not sure necessarily sort of specific sort of male health examples, but yeah, I mean, I think the reality is, again, I don't necessarily see that as a male issue. I mean, I may be wrong. I mean, you may have some statistics to tell me otherwise, but I think for me that's an issue that anyone is susceptible to, where you are concerned about your physical health, and inevitably that is going to lead to anxious thoughts and deterioration in mental health. And yeah, I mean, I have had issues in the past where I've had health concerns, and it creates a situation where you worry about life, you worry about, probably would worry even more now as a sort of father and things like that. And again, maybe that is sort of toxic masculinity to a certain extent, because you're sort of seeing your role as again, that sort of dependent, everyone's dependent on you. But you worry about that more, I think, when you've got people that do depend on you. But again, I don't think that's necessarily different for a mother than a father. I think it's probably the same for everyone.
Mine's slightly the other way around, so I know my body will tell me when my head's having enough. So if I won't necessarily feel anxiety in the same way that other people will, so my brain can process the challenges, the difficulties, and I know a lot is going on and it's a pretty hectic time, but usually that will manifest itself in some sort of physical way. Whether it's the heart racing when my head is fine, or frequently it would be tonsillitis. Suddenly I'd come down with that at the most sort of what would be a peak stress time for me. So learning to listen to that and speaking about it, usually with my wife, sometimes with colleagues, and knowing if it's coming up, doing something about it. So it's quite open with my colleagues that on Monday I took what I told them was a mental health day, trying to encourage them to do the same, because if you know you're hitting a peak time and you just need to put the brakes on a little bit, taking that opportunity to do it is a really important thing. Even just a day annual leave without having jobs to do, because that'll be another thing tend to do. Take a day off and then suddenly you're clearing out the shed or putting on the washing or whatever it is. Actually just taking that and just switching off, doing something that you enjoy doing. But yeah, I agree with Paul. It can't just be a male thing. I think maybe there is an expectation that men don't talk about these things. You keep it to yourself, don't show weakness. But I don't think it's something that either of us have.
Yeah, I think to me it's all of this stuff really is universal. And I think the issue though is that traditionally, and I hope that's being shaken up a bit, but traditionally that men wouldn't be very good at doing exactly what you've just said and being open and honest about these things. And I think, again, traditionally, not universally, but the expectation would be that women perhaps were better at that and had more communities, had more resources, had more support, and just kind of nurtured in a way that allowed the freedom to do that a bit more. I think the really important thing, and I suppose this links back to the whole purpose of International Men's Day, is to try and encourage that for men and just say this really isn't a problem, because this is everyone. It doesn't matter what you think it means to be a man. The reality is every single man on the planet will have some issues in some way, whether it's a physical health issue, a mental health issue, or struggles in all sorts of different ways. Yes, we come across people in the work that we do where that's perhaps more extreme, but nobody's alone in that. I think that's the sort of key message, I suppose. And I think ultimately, yeah, it's just almost a bit of a nonsense, isn't it, that we're actually having to talk about it. I know that it's important that we do, but hopefully one day we won't be. We won't be needing to have International Men's Day or whatever, because it will all be just universal, that everyone understands that that's just part of being human.
Yeah, definitely. It's making sure that everyone knows that their issues are valid. You know, you can compare yourself to everyone else in the world, can't you? But when it comes down to it, you and your own mental health, you know what's right for you. You know what isn't right, and what's going to affect you. And speaking up about it is a really powerful tool in those times. Thank you both.